So Romanticism and Gothicism as literary tools are very humanistic. And so there are some very humanistic themes in the stories that we read in this episode. Both of them contain discussion of self-harm and suicide. So we want to issue this as a trigger warning. And
if you or anyone you know are suffering from thoughts of self-harm or suicide, we will have resources at the end of the episode and in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. And with that, here is Gothic Horror Everyone Should Read.
Hi, my name is Drew. I'm a sociologist.
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm a media production specialist.
And this is Everyone Should Read,
the podcast where we break down novels, short stories, essays, poems, plays, everything that someone has told you about, you've definitely heard of before, you might have picked up, but you haven't actually gotten all the way through.
The things that everyone is telling you that you should read, but you may not have actually read.
Mm-hmm.
We are reading them for you, and we are talking about them and their posterity, where they are located in the zeitgeist, and whether or not we think you should read them.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun doing it.
It's a great time. This is really fun.
We are in season 1, Gothic literature.
Yeah, we are.
And today we are talking about Gothic horror.
Big one. Excited for this one.
I read a review on a Gothic book a couple weeks ago. I've been talking about it ever since I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Where someone commented, everyone keeps saying this book is Gothic, but it's not scary at all. 2 stars. And I literally have told everyone I've encountered since then, because not all Gothic and horror and scary are not synonymous.
If this is not your first episode with us, then you have heard us say time and time again, like, what Gothicism means in literature, what Romanticism means in literature, and how Gothic is not inherent. It's atmospheric,
yes.
Sure, and it's thematic, but it is not supposed to be scary on its own.
Mm-mm.
That's the whole point.
Mm-mm. And even today with Gothic horror, there were different types of horror.
Mm-hmm.
And to a modern audience, you might have a slasher, a thriller, a psychological horror. You have body horror. You have so many different options. You can watch 100 different Halloween movies or Scream movies or, massacre of this and that and whatever, Texas and the chainsaws and a whole bit. And this is not that. This is, if you're looking for a bunch of jump scares in a literary format, you're not going to get it here.
Absolutely. You might get some suspense and your heart might race because of that, but you're not getting like a this scene, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid. Like, that's not.
No, it's going to make you question what you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to give you a sense of dread, but it's not necessarily going to be the scariest thing you've ever encountered.
And quite frankly, I think dread is a lot better than a little jump scare at the movie theater, because the dread sticks with you. It goes home with you. And that's the point of Gothic literature.
Yeah.
Right? To feel dread about what's happening.
The inherent haunting of the situation, even if the situation is you at home after you've put the book down.
Absolutely. Or you just being alive.
Yes.
I think unrelated to what we're reading today, Midsummer is a great example of like being haunted in the daylight. Just the hauntingness, a haunted nature of the situation. It's really fun and exciting.
And we have 2 very different stories today that we're going to break down. And they're not jump scare scary.
No.
But they are classic Gothic horror.
God.
And I'm excited to get into them.
Let's do it. Would you like to take it from here? Would you like to lead?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my work was originally published 1892 in a magazine. It's a short story.
You may have heard of it.
It's called The Yellow Wallpaper. Odds are an English teacher assigned this to you at one point. It's not very long, and it will leave you sitting there a little horrified.
Well, so
a little dumbfounded.
We don't usually think of the yellow wallpaper as being any kind of horror, really. It's not spoken about in horror circles.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that.
It is psychological body horror. And it is one of the very first, incendiary pieces of feminist literature. And it was written by one of Drew's favorite people, a sociologist.
I love sociologists, and I love when they write literature. Oh, God, I love when a sociologist writes literature. Sorry. Go on. Please go. Oh, my gosh.
So Charlotte Perkins.
Really excited about this episode.
Charlotte Perkins Gilman wrote this short story. It's semi-autobiographical, and it deals with what we now know to be postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis. They didn't have those words and those terms at that time. And when she had her child, she fell into this depression. And there was a treatment for it, and it was called rest care. And it's just, hey, lie there. Don't move. Don't think. Don't pick up a pen. Don't pick up a paintbrush. Don't talk to anyone. Engage in social isolation and, like, blank mind.
Now, if you've been paying attention to like the mental health revolution at any point, if you are a medical anthropologist, sociologist, or medical historian, or just a regular person who has been to a doctor, you know this is a terrible idea.
Yeah, so this does in fact make everything horrifically worse. If you have depression, you are not supposed to just lie there. It actually it does horrible things to your brain.
It really just
disengage with everything around you. It makes the depression significantly worse. It makes the psychosis worse. And the author was like, what if I just dabbled in chloroform? What if I just jumped off the ledge? What if I just... And it was at that point where her husband's like, I think what's best for all of us is if we just divorce. I'm not really sure how that was best for everyone.
Well, it was certainly good for her.
She did improve almost immediately after the divorce. So something worked.
Also, if you are a medical social scientist, this is speaking to you, I'm sure. I'm sure. I just love it. Like, she's just putting it all in there. I'm sorry.
And it's not a very long story. It's
not
easy to get through.
It's so succinct.
So it starts as a woman writing secret journal entries. She has sort of smuggled this pen and this paper into the room that she's staying in. Her husband and her have rented this home for the summer, and she's up in what used to be a nursery. There are bars on the windows, the bed is bolted down, and there is this like wallpaper that any type A person can tell you the wallpaper, the seams are supposed to line up. And the seams not only don't line up, they don't line up pretty horribly in this room. And this woman is lying there, not allowed to do anything, think anything, go anywhere. And so she's just staring at this wallpaper where all of the seams and the edges are like hitting and missing the mark to the point where she starts to think it's moving. She starts to think something behind the wallpaper is moving the wallpaper. And as we've discussed, the psychological implications of making your depression worse, the psychosis becoming worse, is pretty traumatic. And you learn about halfway through the story that, like most Gothic stories, you have a deeply unreliable narrator. You're not really quite sure what's going on anymore, or what is right, what way is up, what way is forward. The woman has been diagnosed by her husband, who she says is like a well-respected doctor. And by the end of it, you're even questioning if she and this doctor are married, if it's her husband, or if her husband is a doctor. You just know that she's locked in this room. And she starts to unravel. She starts to unravel mentally, and she starts to unravel the wallpaper. And it gets so bizarre. And it is a woman falling apart mentally and losing the plot.
You know, and it's messy and it's not neat. It
literally and figuratively messy, losing the plot.
Yeah.
Because the story does start to devolve. And this woman finds rope and she's swinging around and she's destroying the walls and she's crawling on all fours. And her husband, the doctor, comes in and faints. And that's where it ends. And it's so haunting.
It's haunting.
It's so haunting. This idea that what happens inside your mind can so completely control the environment around you and ruin everything, and that you as the reader can't do anything.
I mean, well, we have talked in the past about how trauma does not equal resilience. It's not like a one-to-one.
No.
Like sometimes being traumatized just means that you're traumatized.
Exactly.
And in this same way, leaving the story open-ended like this, it's sort of like there is no neat bow with this. This terrible thing happened to this woman. Her power was not hers to reclaim, and it ends miserably. Like, this is terrible. And that's real life. That is real life.
Well, and the woman's husband says, I want you to get better. I need you to get better. If you can't get better here at home, I will have to send you away to this expert. And he names the expert. And it is, in fact, the doctor who treated the author. So there is a little, I mean, it's semi-autobiographical. So it's more than a little self-insertion here. But the storyteller, the woman in the story, says, oh, I know someone who went to him and he made everything worse. I can't go there. I have to get better here at home. Here at home, where the bed is bolted down, she can't leave the attic room. There's bars on the windows, everything else. And she can't see her child because it's not safe.
I think one of the things that I really enjoy about this story and sort of what you're telling us, and I would love your input on this as well, is that a lot of the horror is, yes, psychological, but it also has a lot to do with like restricted agency as a woman in this story. It's like, these decisions are not mine to make, and I have to move within this really tight space of maneuverability at the same time.
And that was Gilman's sociological focus. Oh, Drew's so excited.
Oh my gosh.
It's like he set me up for that.
You can't even see the faces that I'm making if you're just listening, but I'm making faces.
Oh, he's so proud of himself. Her focus in sociology was the social structure and concept of domesticity. So the constraints that were put on women in society and the roles that they could and couldn't play and the roles that men could and couldn't play, right? So you have this woman who has had this child and all of her agency has been taken away. And not only that, but she's been told she has to just lie there. Don't think any thoughts. Don't pick up a pen. Don't pick up a brush. Just stare at the wall until you get better.
At which point you can resume your duties.
Yes, at which point you can come back and start taking care of the child.
It's I just think it's very well done.
It's crazy.
What do you think? What are your, tell me more. How did you interface with this story?
I love it. I love it so much. And as someone who is child-free by choice, but has a lot of friends who have children, the conversations around postpartum depression are more prevalent now than they ever were. And having those conversations with friends who really struggle, you need a village. You need so much help. You need all hands on deck because your body has gone through this incredibly traumatic experience. And if you don't have a helping, loving, supportive system around you, it is so much worse. It's so much harder. Your body is trying to recover. There is a new baby. Odds are you don't have live-in help, so you're not getting any sleep. If your partner, like Gilman's partner, is not hands-on and he's like, you know what, what's best for everyone is just a divorce, everything can get so much worse so much more quickly if you don't have the mental capacity to move forward from this traumatic experience that your body has just gone through. And if you feel like you're in a fog, and a lot of times you don't realize how bad it's gotten until you get on medication of some kind, because while you're going through pregnancy, so many things are happening to your body, and doctors are like, oh, well, that's normal. Everything's normal because there's billions of people on the planet and something's happening to everyone.
There's no 100% sample size.
No.
Right.
No. And so many people have a limited number of children, so you can't really compare and contrast. We can't all be giant families of 11 where you're like, okay, well, here's a solid sample size of what pregnancy looks like and what normal looks like. The average person only has like maybe 1 or 2, 3 children. And so you're like, well, it was easy with the first one and hard with the second one, but we don't really know why. And there's so many different environmental factors that go into that. And so then to be in a state that is so incredibly vulnerable and to be told, just lie there.
I mean, well, so
is crazy.
To literally this exact point, I feel like it really pulls into the spotlight this idea, this kind of thing that comes up in a lot of spaces. I think the one that's coming to my mind right now is another podcast that we love, Normal Gossip.
Oh, so good.
Where they talk about sort of the role of gossip and the sort of nature of like the legitimacy of gendered knowledge, because gossip is typically feminized. And when it comes to things like child rearing, usually the information that you don't have, you fill in with other women who understand, who have experience, or
Yes.
somebody knows somebody, and so there's a sort of collective knowledge that is formed there. And this was written in, you said 1892, and this is well before, we have fMRI imaging or anything like that. We don't have the studies to tell us, oh, well, being surrounded by other people triggers like these responses and these responses, and this makes healing better. But there's an understanding. There's an understanding that comes from collectively sourced knowledge, that I think Charlotte Perkins Gilman is also speaking to.
Yes. Well, and if you look at humans compared to all other animals, you have humans, you have elephants, and you have orcas, and they are the only ones that have multi-generational families because it takes so long to raise children that you need help. Humans are designed to live in community with one another inherently, and to take that away from someone who is struggling is horrifying in and of itself. And then to read it from the perspective of the person who is struggling and whose mental health is devolving as the story goes on is where that element of horror really comes from.
I absolutely agree. It's a very human kind of horror.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a whole different kind of horror that you're bringing to the table today.
So it's pretty terrible, because we take that idea of like, the horror is being deprived of human connection, and we pivot to one of the most xenophobic humans, I think, in American history.
He's reading Lovecraft, y'all.
Howard Phillips Lovecraft, everyone, and he sucks. I'm so sorry. He's a terrible person. Everyone wants to talk about the cat. I'm not going to talk about the cat. We're not talking about the cat. We're ignoring the cat. If you want to know about the cat, Google the cat. There are tweets about the cat. There are TikToks about the cat.
We're moving on.
We're moving on. We're moving past that.
This is a literature podcast. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Howard Phillips Lovecraft was born in 1890, died in 1937. Thank God. I don't think the literary world could have withstood very much of him. I'm glad it was a very short stint on Earth.
We talk every once in a while about separating the art from the artist, and Drew's not doing that.
Well, so this is actually, and it's ironic because I think Lovecraft's works are some of the most eligible to be separated from him. He was a New Englander. He was puritanical to a fault. We mentioned previously in other episodes about the sort of role of New England and how Puritans, New Englanders, were characteristically xenophobic. They hated everyone who wasn't themselves. When I did
Ichabod Crane.
Exactly, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Washington Irving, he was in New Netherlands. He was a descendant of the Dutch. He grew up in New York, and he was criticizing the New Englanders through the character of Ichabod Crane, who was kind of this loser who was afraid of everything. Howard Phillips Lovecraft is a loser who is afraid of everything. And this is the thing that I think makes his work so interesting. The story I chose, for the record, is Dagon. It's kind of like a classic. It's very short. H.P. Lovecraft. It tells the story of a man. It's a suicide note. He has gone mad. He is haunted by something traumatic that he experienced. People don't believe him. He's not sure. He's turned to, morphine. He's turned to morphine to like sort of dull it. It's not working, and he's terrified. And the thing that is haunting him is he was sort of in a boat. He passes out. He wakes up on this terrifying sort of swampy landmass. He's like, I don't know where I am. And he says, clearly this, like, I can tell because it's so silty and wet and gross that this rose out of the ocean. And he's like, I'm going to hang out here. I'm going to camp under my boat until it dries. And then it dries. He's like, now I'm going to walk across this landmass. And as he's walking across this landmass, it's just kind of silt and dirt. And there are valleys and hills. And it's deserted. There's nothing there except he comes over this hill. And he's looking at this tremendous ridge. It's like a canyon. There's water rushing through it. And there is a great big obelisk. There's a big white stone obelisk with these reliefs on it. And he says there are hieroglyphs that I can't identify. This is all very characteristically Lovecraft. That's why I chose this one. There's a language I can't speak. There's a representation of a culture that I don't know anything about. It's ominous. I don't know how far it goes. It was clearly at the bottom of the ocean. It's very scary. And then there's this rendering of a big kind of like fish missing link monster mer person with webbed hands and webbed feet and fins and the big like frog-like style lips and bulging eyes, all of the things that you associate with Lovecraft, like the creepy entities that come out of the ocean. They're slimy. And he's looking at the carving into the obelisk, and he's like, they're clearly very primitive because they've rendered themselves roughly the size of an orca whale, and that's just not not true. That's silly. How silly and primitive these people are. And then one of the entities crawls out of the cavern body of water, and it is the size of the obelisk. It's huge. And it like grips it and bows its head in like some kind of prayer. And the man is horrified. He's like, oh my God. He's freaked out. He's so disturbed. And he says there's so much more. One of the things that I really appreciate, unfortunately, about the posterity of Lovecraft is that he derives his horror from the unknown. And in the way that sort of Gothicism is meant to be an analysis of the unknown and a commentary on the unknown and the things that we don't understand, and it's sort of the not knowing that is the scary part. H.P. Lovecraft is characterizing a lot of his work by, it was so horrifying that I cannot speak of it. And now I'm haunted by it. And people are like, what's wrong? I couldn't tell you. I can tell you a couple of things, but just enough to maybe communicate a vague idea, and the rest is too unspeakable. And he talks
about creative world building.
It's very creative world building. And it's this idea of like madness, and how madness sort of takes away your legitimacy. And so, you say a couple of things and they're like, well, the rest is incoherent. And not only is this sort of characteristic of puritanical culture, you're not speaking the logic that I understand, so you're not speaking anything at all. But it's also just because he leaves so much unsaid, and because he himself was extremely xenophobic, like he hated everything that was not he himself, a straight white man or a puritanical white man. He did not like indigenous people. He did not like women. He did not like gay people. He did not like black people. He did not like people.
The list is long.
the people of the Orient did not like them. The people of the modern world did not like them. The West hated it all bad. He was just gross guy. But because it was sort of like a characteristic, almost anxious hatred and aversion to all things that were foreign, he didn't really go into detail about what it was he didn't like. And because of that, there's so much void construction in his works. And it's what I call a negative reference group, is what we call in sociology for identity formation, a negative reference group, which is like, I know what I am based on what I am not. You're not really concerned what the not is, insofar as you can characterize an other that is not you to construct yourself against, in opposition to. And so that's what his literature is characterized as. And we sort of look at Cthulhu and we think, well, oh no, Lovecraft is tentacles, it's the ocean, it's scary things. No. The horror is that you don't usually, in Lovecraftian works and Lovecraftian adaptations, you don't see the horrible entity until the end. Until that point, if it's in a book or a film or a video game, you're haunted by like loud noises, massive destruction that you stumble upon. You might see
da-da. It's not the shark itself.
It's the dread of the shark.
Yes.
It is the anticipation of the shark. And again, because like he didn't pour very much of his own beliefs into it, just kind of like the transcription of his fear and the construction of the other. After he dies, after less than 50 years, bless, it leaves his body of work to be picked up and molded and riffed on by others. And I think that makes it some of the purest form of Gothic horror, because it is just the fear of the unknown, and that's it.
Well, and it inspired so many other creators in so many other spaces.
Absolutely.
But it does almost make you feel bad for someone who is so afraid of everything and everyone, and the idea that your world is so small and so limited that anyone who does not look or sound or just look exactly like you.
Which he was not a looker, for the record. So what a terrible,
catching strays.
What a hill to die on.
Listen, but I mean, that still happens today.
It does.
Where you have people who are so afraid of something they have never even experienced. The idea that something new or different or capable of challenging their worldview is out there limits the world in which they live to the point where their only response is fear and hatred.
Yeah, absolutely. Largely sort of unintegrated regions. I don't want to name a particular part because I feel like we tend to make the mistake, especially us living on coasts. We, I think, are very mindful about this, but people tend to sort of rural America at large, they are the people who are so afraid and so isolated.
You don't have to go that far rural.
You don't. You really don't. In fact, you will find them in really nice high rises right here in the city. And they do not want to sully their boots on the street with the people that they don't know or understand. We find it even in a lot of our policies surrounding homelessness and substance use disorder and like high acuity sort of people in crisis. And the idea that like, I don't understand it, but it's making me uncomfortable and I don't want to touch it and I will not touch it. And I'm so afraid that I don't even want to support the research or the safety nets that will help uplift these people, because you don't even understand what it is you're in opposition to. It's fascinating stuff. I mean, it's characteristic Lovecraft. But
It's also the sort of policy that Drew works on when he's not in the studio.
it's true. That is the that is the policy that I work on. That's the sort of sentiment that I try to crack and push through. And it's that research.
Helping provide dignity to people who are not receiving it otherwise.
It is crazy how effective recovery methods are when you treat people like people. It is astonishing. Really fast.
Yeah, level of dignity, decency, and respect
goes such a long way.
Crazy how far it goes.
Well, I mean, in keeping with Charlotte Perkins Gilman, sort of being in community and being around people and collective knowledge that really helps deliver people out of.
Yes, everyone needs a village. And that is what Gothic horror tells you.
And that is what that's really what it communicates. And as you can see, sort of with H.P. Lovecraft anyway, one, he died sad and alone, right?
You're not upset about that.
Not at all. Not in a little bit. Not even a little bit. But sort of the thing that we could extrapolate from him is this sort of like, even the Lovecraftian pieces, they're usually experienced in isolation, is the thing. And it's we think about like Lovecraft Country, which is interesting because it pushes against that sort of Lovecraftian isolation. There are foils in the narrative. You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
And you see that sort of as people resist those who have the power, in this case, the supernatural Lovecraftian power are held by white oppressors. In some of the stories, it's kind of an anthology. The sort of community aspect of that resists that construction of power. But in other narratives, I think about like, I love me some Skyrim. I really, really do. And in the Dragonborn DLC, you go to this sort of Lovecraftian realm and you experience all of that alone. You can't go with anyone. You can't bring anyone with you. You read this book and you go into this place and it's all isolation and it's all tentacles and scary and spooky. And that is truly Lovecraftian, like that isolation, that doing it alone kind of aspect. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I think even if you look back at when we talked about Wuthering Heights, if those people just knew more people, they'd stop marrying their cousins. All of Gothicism, so much of it is in isolation because when you are alone and when you are singled out, the world is scarier.
Yeah.
If you look at Hester Prynne, when in the Scarlet Letter, she's raising her child by herself. She's fighting against the community and the odds and the puritanical ideals. You have all of these people who, like, if you would just be in community with others, life would be easier and less scary, and you would be able to have more success.
Yeah.
And that is Gothic horror.
It is. And it's really succinct in communicating it. We ate that up, I fear. Okay, the question. Should everyone read The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, I think everyone should read it. And I also think that something that is a conversation that's happening outside of the studio a lot lately is empathy for one another, and that the more you read and the more you read from other perspectives and other experiences, the more you are able to empathize with people going through something outside of your knowledge, outside of the world that you exist in or you inhabit or you have encountered on your own. If you are able to empathize with others and someone who's going through a mental break, essentially, in the case of this character in this story, it helps you have so much more sympathy for the people who are having a hard time or a hard day or a hard year or hard life.
Absolutely.
And I think everyone should read that.
I agree. Big fan of her.
Yeah, huge fan. Huge fan. Do you think everyone should read Lovecraft?
So, yes, actually. And I think it's because the way he wrote it was so devoid of personal depth. It was just his fears translated onto paper that it kind of acts as literary putty. You can take his style and his atmosphere and you can mold it into whatever you want it to be. And I think empowering yourself with that literary tool or that imaginative tool in any context would be beneficial. So I think everyone should read some Lovecraft.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, he sucks though, for the record. I cannot stress enough.
Never beating the allegations.
Like, do not concern yourself with like Lovecraft's life and we have to do credit to the other. No, you don't. Literally rip it from the pages and make it your own. That is my advice. I'm so serious. Yeah.
Anyway. Thank you so much for listening.
I'm Drew. I'm a sociologist.
I'm Kate. I'm a media production specialist.
And this was Everyone Should Read. I really liked this episode.
Thank you so much for listening. And while we still have you here, tell your librarian that we love them.